People who have said no to the barber when they asked if their haircut looked good. What's your story? When I was a young teen, 15 or 16, I had hair down to my belly button. I wanted it cut to my collarbone because my hair is thick and hard to take care of. My normal hairdresser was delayed in 2-hour appointment due to one of the dyeing hair things breaking and the other being taken, so I was paired with a different one. This girl couldn't do an even cut. She kept trying. So she kept cutting so one side would be 3+ inches longer than the other. I watched in the mirror in horror. Speechless. She eventually sees my face and goes to get my normal hairdresser. My normal hairdresser just gives me a sad look and says she has to even me out and that she was sorry. She had to cut it to my ears. She didn't ask if I like it. She just said I didn't have to pay. My eyes were watering by that point. It was horrible. Never went back. I had a really uneven trim with a couple of bald patches in it once. So I just asked the barber to shave my head completely and I'd start over from zero. He tried to charge me for both haircuts, but I refused to double dip. I wanted a buzz cut. She was not willing to cut off that much hair, assuming I'd be upset and get angry. 7 times she trimmed off a millimeter and asked me if it was okay. I went out, bought myself a pair of clippers, had a buzzed head in about 12 minutes, and have not been back to barber since. I asked for a skin fade that tapers into what I have on top. She went down to skin all the way up. Told her this isn't what I asked for. She got snarky and said I needed to be clearer next time. I paid the bill after she shortened the top to better match the now bald sides of my head. I may not know all the names for barber equipment, but I've been getting this haircut for years and literally everyone but her was able to produce what I requested. I get my haircut one day at a school. I get a pretty basic haircut. 1.5 inches on top, shorter on the sides, off the ears. There is a reason I get it cut at 1.5 inches on top. Much longer than that it does a weird Bozo the Clown thing. Much shorter than that it just stands straight up. He cut it 1 inch all over my head. I looked like a chia pet. 16 years old and just about to get my DL. Go to the salon to get my hair cut nice for the picture. Instead of feathering my hair, I know I'm dating myself here, the stylist gives me a spiky buzz cut on top. I was so upset I just sat in her chair and cried. Way too short to fix. It was truly awful. Stylist gets offended and starts giving all these excuses. I just paid and left hiding my hair the best I could. For the next couple months I wore out of hats. Edit. Sorry for the confusion, DL equals driver's license. My hairdresser and I had a pretty good relationship. And I had short hair that I wasn't emotional about. So she asked if she could just go wild and surprise me. When I saw the result, I'd ended up with a weird uneven pixie cut. I told her that it was very cool, but would be too difficult to maintain every day. So could she please cut it down to a regular hairstyle? She redid the cut uncomplainingly, and I walked out happy. Got stabbed in the scalp with the scissors. It got stuck there and I had to go to hospital to have it surgically removed. Didn't hit anything, thank the gods. Had a barber offer a hot towel shave at the end of my haircut because he was trying to kill a few extra minutes before he clocked out without having to take another waiting customer. Barber used a Mach 3 razor and absolutely butchered my face. Halfway through the shave people just kept staring at me with blood running down my face while the barber was packing some cornstarch bullet in the scrapes cuts. He said, "Wow, you have really sensitive skin," and I replied, "Most skin is sensitive when you duck and remove it with a razor." I just pulled the towel off and walked out of the shop. Bloody, half shaved and fully pissed off. My brother thought I got jumped on my way, there was so much blood on my shirt neck. Best part is, I only got the haircut for professional headshots being taken the next day. Yeah, that didn't happen. Itty parties. Guy was my go-to barber for a few years. Haven't been back since. Edit. A word. Edit 2. Obligatory thanks for the Silver Stranger. My first one. Sniffle. This only happened to me once. I'm not sure how she did so badly on my hair. It was all weird and uneven and she missed parts, which is hard to do when you're just getting a classic crew cut. She was super young though, so maybe it was a lack of experience. I politely told her no, this wasn't going to work, but it was going to be okay. I got up, paid and left her a tip. She did her best. Then I drove down the street to another hair place and had someone there fix it. Hopefully she either got better at her job or chose a different career path. I now no longer go to Great Clips or any of those types of quick haircut shops. I go to the same stylist over and over, which is fun because it's like we're having these long conversations with month-long gaps between them. Plus she gives me a beer each time I sit down to get a trim. It wasn't a haircut but a blowout. A simple blowout. I was on an anniversary vacation and I wanted to treat myself to a blowout. It was $25. We were staying in a nice inn and I called the recommended salon and booked an appointment. This is a very small town in a place far away. The brand new girl was doing it and she had no idea how to do a blowout. I have had them before and she was clueless. I debated what to say and when she turned me around she asked me if I liked it and said no. She called the manager over, might have been owner, and the owner started to argue with me that stylists have their own style to do blowouts. The manager redid my blowout in 1/3 of the time and she did it right. The new girl checked me out and I told her that it was the manager's duty to train her and the manager was at fault. I asked her not to feel bad but to demand to be trained so that she could become as great as she wanted to be. I paid the bill of $25 and tipped the new girl $15. That poor new girl was not equipped and was not being supported. I hope she continued and asked for her training. Not me, but my dad. Went to get our hair cut before a soccer game back when I was about 12. Got mine first. Was fine. Sat down while dad got his hair cut. Cue the barber doing the usual, holding the mirror asking if everything looks good. My dad sits still for a minute quietly and says sternly, "That's the worst ducking haircut I've ever had in my ducking life." Everyone just sat there for what seemed like 10 minutes before we just got up and walked out. Nothing else was said. I was beyond ducking embarrassed. And the haircut seemed like the same ducking haircut my dad had gotten since 1980, no better or worse. Still not sure if he just did it to avoid paying, which would be very likely. But he maintains to this day it was a ducking terrible haircut. I go to a place near my work. It's the standard barber shop staffed by Vietnamese people. I've been going there for years and they are very nice. There is one guy who works there and he is great. I always use him, even if I have to wait. One day I was in a hurry, had no time to wait. So I elected to have one of the girls cut my hair. Well, she didn't do it right and it looked awful. I told her, "It's not working." So I had her get the clippers out and told her to shave my entire head at once so I could reset my hair. I chose a new style that, as it turns out, I didn't like how it looked on me upon completion. No fault of his. I just didn't like what I chose. Didn't really fit me like I thought it would. I had him shave it bald and had him try something else several months later. Much better. I'll still have him experiment from time to time. Even be his guinea pig for something he wants to try. It was a $5 Vietnamese joint so expectations were to be tempered. But it was always good enough for me. Especially since I'm a dude and I don't need to worry that much about my hair. One time this lady gives me the Jim Carrey cut in Dumb and Dumber and I was like, yeah, no. How about you just break it up a little in the front? Not so straight. She was a good sport about it. I once was in the seat next to a guy who said, "Yeah, it's fine, thank you." When he stood up and turned around I could clearly see his anger in the reflection of the mirror. When I was a kid, my dad and I would go to the local barber. However, once I became a preteen, when you become self-conscious about your hair, my dad and I both noticed our haircuts were getting a tear and a tear. The next time we went I watched the barber focused on what the barber was doing while cutting hair to see if I could identify what he was doing wrong. It turns out he had become so complacent that he would fixate on the Cubs game on the TV hanging from the ceiling while cutting hair. Not even looking at the person's head. I told him it sucked and never went back. I wanted my hair cut very short. I keep it short now. Clip number 1 on the sides and number 2 on top. Back when this happened I think I asked for a number 3 clipper on the sides and finger thickness on top. Blended to the sides. She picked up the clippers and popped in a number 1 blade and went right over the top of my head like a reverse mohawk and then said, "Oops. You wanted a 1 on top, right?" I had to get it number 1 all over. This was the day before my friend's wedding that I was going to. I looked like a goon. My hair is pretty short, so there's not much to mess up. I get it cut often cause my hair grows thick and I have to maintain it for the military. So I tend to go wherever I can get in quick and cheap. I like it really short on the sides, like if LaCroix cut hair. That level of hair to scalp ratio. Just a hint. But the last time, I was out of state and stopped by a rinky-dink little barber shop. After I got it cut, the lady flipped me around to look in the mirror. I was facing away, and it looked like almost none was cut off. So I asked her to cut more, and she reluctantly agreed. Once again it was way too long. So finally I just told her just cut it all off because now I was not only fed up with my thick hair, but my haircut experience. Finished up and left. I still left with it longer than I normally like it. When I was about 6 we had a mobile hairdresser who came to our house. I was a real tomboy so mum asked them to cut my hair fairly short. When I saw in the mirror I ran outside, climbed a tree and refused to come down for a couple of hours. I think my views were clearly transmitted. If it's a barber I don't know. I always tell them I want it a little longer in the back just to see their reaction. I'm usually not picky when it comes to haircuts. It's hair after all. It will grow back. I was getting a typical fade about 5 or 6 months ago and this woman, for some reason, faded each side of my head in different spots. So much so that the only way to fix it was to jump down to a number 4 and buzz the top of my head to try and salvage the blending. I literally had to stop her and ask what she was doing and she was like, "What? Nothing is wrong." So I put my fingers, pointed towards my head, on each fade line and you could clearly see they were off by almost an inch and I was like, "Dude, look at this." Her response was, "I am not a dude." I just kind of looked at her weird and said, "Oh yeah, I know that, I just used dude as an expression." So she proceeds to buzz my head and at the end she was like, "I'm not going to make you pay for this," and I said yeah. I wasn't planning on it. I still go back to the same supercuts, but if she's working I will avoid her. I didn't realize just how bad the cut was until I went home and washed my hair. I called up, got set up with a more experienced stylist and got a decent, albeit very short, haircut. Afterwards she gave me coupons. Yeah, not a refund, even a partial, but coupons for another cut. I told her I wouldn't be coming back and to not bother. Never did go back. Never complained about a haircut. But once when I was halfway through and the women who was just before me that had the same lady came back and started complaining about how my current hair lady did a terrible job and she wanted her money back. My hair lady and complaining lady get into a heated argument about how complaining lady was talking on her phone the whole time and this caused the bad cut. Thought they were about to take it outside. Really a terrible situation to be in. Half cut hair. An emotionally charged cut lady. And not the best feeling about a cut lady. Quite awkward. Thank you Supercuts. After hearing the customer in the barber's chair next to mine complain bitterly to his barber about the haircut he had just received, I made sure to compliment my barber. It was a genuine compliment, too, because he did a great job. The guy next to me was just trying to embarrass his barber in front of others. Much like a mean-spirited customer in a restaurant that takes obvious pleasure in berating the waiter. When I was 16, I went to the hairdressers with a picture of how I wanted it to look. There was a poster of a girl in the window with a cute hairstyle, but not really my thing. But the hairdressers convinced me it would be perfect with my face shape. Be brave and try something new. All that BS. I was awkward and reluctantly agreed. It turned out awful. I don't know if the hairdresser was a trainee, or if I just didn't have the right face style after all. But goddamn, it was the worst hairstyle I've had since I cut my own hair at age 5. I cried. They didn't offer a discount or anything. Just told me it looks great, you'll get used to it. The usual. I never went back. And I've cut my own hair ever since. Always looking significantly better than that abysmal job. As a mixed race, half black half white, man, I find that I never like my haircuts. My hair is very curly, but also wavy. so neither white barbers or black barbers know what to do with it. There was only one time I liked my haircut. It was cut by a Latino man. I went back a few months later to get it cut by the same guy to find out that he moved. I started cutting my own hair. And let me tell you, it's impossible to get an even fro when you cut it yourself. I gotta find me a guy. Clients telling you they don't like their haircut happens about as often as someone telling you they do like their haircut, and you want it too. The client is a representation of your work. You want them to be happy about their hair, so they go tell all their friends how much they like it. I'd rather have someone tell me they aren't satisfied while they are still in my chair so I can fix it. Be vocal about your hair, people. Good old Tommy Guns. I went in and asked for a mohawk. The barber asked me like David Beckham. I replied no. Like a punk. Like something Sid Vicious might have. She agreed and then gave me the David Beckham. So like this? She asked. I was kinda choked because I had been growing my hair out for months and this was completely wrong and tried to say calmly no. Nothing like this. You know what a mohawk is, right? She apologized and said don't worry, I can fix it alright, I thought. Then she shaved a diamond into the back of my head. When she showed me I lost it. I jumped up and said don't touch me. And walked out. I still have no idea what she was thinking. After years of wasting money on horrible to unsatisfactory haircuts, I invested in a good clipper set, watched a few YouTube videos and trimmed my own hair now. My initial thought was, if I mess it up, at least I won't be paying someone for it. And B, I can always do a crew cut. 3 years later, best $30 investment ever. Went from decent to pretty good at cutting my own hair. I once asked my girlfriend in college to cut my hair because I had gotten a last minute interview for a job. We went out to the backyard and I don't know if the sun was in her eyes or if she was just nervous, but as soon as I saw the first snip she had taken from the front, I knew she had cut too much off. She took a step back and looked like she was about to burst into tears. I assured her that it was okay, because there was nothing that could be done about it except try to not go any shorter. She finished up and the end result was kind of goofy looking. But I wasn't too upset. I knew it would grow out and I really appreciated her doing that. And although I kept thanking and reassuring her it was okay, it took at least a day before she fully believed I was okay with it. Had it been a professional, I probably would have been more upset. But everyone makes mistakes and bad haircut is only temporary. Edit. Here are a couple of pictures from about a month and a half after the haircut. You can see what I mean about the front being too short. And it does look a bit better, but it looked really bad right after the haircut. I asked for a scissor cut. 1.5 long. They usually shave my neck with the electric trimmer, so I thought nothing of it when the trimmer came out. Until she swiped the damn thing over my temple. I jumped back and asked her what she was doing and she said, you said 1.5. But there isn't a 1.5 comb on the trimmer, so I used a 1 inches. She finished the cut as I asked. Scissor cut 1.5 long. And said didn't have to pay. But, because I wound up looking like that modern girl's hairstyle with long hair on top and shaved temple. And I'm a dude. Was stupid looking for about 3 weeks until I could get another haircut to even it out. My father got his hair cut at Great Clips recently and instead of taking off 1.5 like he asked, they cut his hair to the length of 1.5. He wore a hat for the next 3 weeks straight. I cried cause it was too short. I said a couple of cm, he took off inches. I had an important job interview, truly critical. I'd moved to Los Angeles based on the offer of a lucrative job at my cousin's sound studio, only to have him tell me when I got out here that he had no intention of paying me. So I was broke and desperate and only had a part-time gig that wasn't adequate to pay the bills. Get an interview at a super cool startup. Big money. Great job. Great company. But I looked kinda shaggy and unkempt. It had been a few months since I got a cut. I was broke. So all I could afford was super cuts. I told the woman I wanted the same cut I've had for ages short. A number 2 on the sides. Faded up with some length at the top so my cowlicks don't go crazy. She gets to work and takes a huge divot out of the back of my head with no guard on the trimmer at all. The only way to fix it was to shave off the rest. and since it went from the middle of my head to the top, it was impossible to fade in. 2. So I just had a white wool on the sides, leading a sort of half-acid high and tight. It looked god awful. She knew it. I told her how important it was I look my best the next day. What was at stake and that this was seriously going to detract from my professional appearance. She apologized and offered me a free cut to make up for it. Like I'd come back for another cut after this disaster. There was nothing to do but gut it out. I got the job anyway. In a major turning point in my life. Months later, co-workers asked what was up with my crazy punker haircut when I interviewed. Told the story and laughed.